At all times, tracks, trail and highway served humanity as keys to evolution. Empires and civilizations disappeared, centuries-old dust swept capitals and cities, but roads kept on breathing life back into them. Do we really understand how roads revitalized areas hundreds of years ago, and how they affect people's destinies today? We go on the Treasures of the Nation expedition to reveal facts about life at the crossroads of antiquity. Modern motorways are very much new, but if a trail is left, it will surely be found even thousands of years later. What has remained in the Azerbaijani culture from the ancient nomads? Why the Azerbaijani national horse breed is called Kazakh Aty? What is the homeland of polo? During the last project season, the participants of the Treasures of the Nation expedition went on almost all the roads laid by our ancestors across the territory of Kazakhstan. They found out that century-old highways go far beyond the borders of our country and now are ready to follow the creaking wagons of ancient travelers to most distant and different ends of the world. But where to begin? We hope that historian Jumajan Bayjumin, the author of the book Turan, a perspective of the history of human society, describing practically all migrations of the residents of the Great Steppe since the very ancient time, will help us to answer this question. Well, these directions are multiple, and one of the most interesting ones is the one towards the Caspian Sea region, the territory of modern-day Dagestan and Azerbaijan, the so-called Derbent Pass. This is the way the nomads, the same Scythians, used pursuing the Cimmerians. But what places exactly you would recommend to visit and see? Maybe some rudiments in the culture of Azerbaijan that you know about, related to nomads. This is where the hypotheses of the Cimmerians being steppe people, and quite possibly the proto-Turkic tribes that came from the steppe to Mesopotamia, receives certain confirmation. The Gobustan monuments located on the territory of Azerbaijan testify exactly in favor of this theory. So it turns out Azerbaijan is our new destination. Spreading the wings on the way to Baku. Let's see what's awaiting us there. In the 19th century, they called Baku the Paris of the Caucasus. Indeed, it is an amazingly gorgeous city where practically all the different architectural styles of the West and the East are harmoniously living together. Baku was also called the City of Winds, so let's have a look at how the winds of various historical events wandered these lands. Karam Mamedov, a Baku historian, kindly agreed to tell us about the roads connecting the Caucasus and the Great Steppe, and thereby forming the foundation of modern Azerbaijani nation. In general, if someone says Dasht i Kipchak, they usually mean the territory of the present-day Kazakhstan for some reason. Do you mean to say that there was an independent Kipchak state, Dasht i Kipchak, or some other state here in Azerbaijan? Talking about the entire history of not only Azerbaijan, but the whole region of the South Caucasus, naturally the Turkic influence had been quite strong here. All Greek and antique sources, including Latin ones too, describe the wars of the Turkic peoples with other tribes. Historian Karam Mamedov thinks that the Great Migration of the peoples did not begin in the 4th century as it is commonly considered, but much earlier. Based on ancient maps, written sources and archaeological finds, the Huns were in the Caucasus already in the 2nd century. The same first wave of the Great Migration of the peoples, started by the nomads, later on reached even Europe.
Что мешает истории изучения объективной истории Южного Кавказа и вообще тюркских народов? Дело в том,
The matter is that here the superimposition or layering, if I may, of the Turks took place. Azerbaijan basically served as a filter for these peoples. Analyzing the role of various Turkic peoples and states, say the Avarian Khaganate, the Gak-Turk Khaganate, or say the Kipchak state or the Oghuz state, we can say that all of them made a contribution to the ethnogenesis of Azerbaijan. How strong was the Mongolian influence? Some of the names that we have now have Mongolian roots. We know them as Mughals.
В северо-западной части Азербайджана азербайджанских тюрков называют мугалами.
To see the traces left by the medieval nomads in Azerbaijan, the expedition went to the areas of compact settlement of the descendants of ancient steppe people or stepniaks. It appeared not that difficult to find them, in fact, based on village names.
Padar.
At first, Padar seems to be yet another usual name of a common Azerbaijani village. However, there is an opinion that the people living here represent the kin of Padar originated from the Mongolian commander Baydar. So it might be that Azerbaijan still hosts the descendants of not only the Kipchaks and the Oghuzes, but also the Genghis Khan's Mongols. As we can see with our own eyes, the fact that our ancestors followed the ancient roads of the Caucasus is literally written in black and white directly on modern road signs. However, it is not only the nomadic toponymic names that have remained in the Azerbaijani culture. It appears that an art very similar to us is also living and striving here. We are now in the house of an Azerbaijani ashug similar to our Kazakh Aty. Let's get some more details of this phenomenon. Mubaris Mualim, Salam Alaikum. Welcome. Could you tell us about the ashugs? But of course, the ashug art unites the whole Turkic world. Where there is a Turk, there is a Saz. Where there is a Saz, there must be a Turk. That's what I think. Perfectly put, shall we?
Mubaris
Mualim, you are an ashug, and we heard that your ashug is like our akin. Could you tell us how the ashugs appeared here in Azerbaijan? Passing through Central Asia, the Oghuz Turks went through Azerbaijan, Iran and Turkey. Throughout their whole history, the ashugs were an integral part of nomadic people's lives. They spent winter months in kishlaks and went to the mountains in the summer. Here we call them terekeme. The beauty that was left for us by our grandfathers, the spirit of our people, and everything else in the world has merged in the ashug music. It's our memory and the world bound together by our spirit. The ashugs would sing and play during happy days, holidays and weddings. Sazes would help people also during mourning days. We want this art to live forever. It is our history. It is the tradition of our ancestors. If Saz lives, the Turkic people will be one. I have a dombra from Kazakhstan at home and I love playing it. Finally, treating the guests with tea, our dear ashug sprang a surprise on us. It turned out that on the table, among the abundance of many other dishes, there stood an Azerbaijani national delicacy, gurut, the taste of which was virtually the same with our Kazakh kurt. However, the host could not even imagine that a payback surprise was awaiting him too.
Ашуги.
The Ashugs, Kurt, what else reminds of the nomad past of Azerbaijani people? Another historian, Pasha Gasanli, agreed to share his thoughts about this with us. Pasha Bey, tell us please. They told us that certain waves of nomadic migrations rolled over the territory of the present-day Azerbaijan. In your opinion, what is or are the most vivid and interesting nomadic traces in the Azerbaijani culture? We can talk about the whole cultural bouquet that exists across our country's territory and in a much wider area. The nomadic culture came into complete synthesis with the cultures of the local tribes. Based on the most recent research, Azerbaijani scientists allege that both nomadic and non-nomadic populations of the country share their roots and that they were all related tribes. Well, if choosing the strongest uniting factor for all of us, I guess it would be horse breeding. The cult of horse and, after all, the special attitude towards horses. Horse breeding in Azerbaijan has a very long history. At one point in time, it was where the didactyl ancestors of horses lived. Besides that, Azerbaijan is the homeland of the first recorded and most ancient stock breed, the one from which the other world-famous horse breeds sprang, like the Arab and the occultic breeds, as well as many others now living in Europe, Asia and Americas. These are the Nisa horses. Nisa? You mean the well-known Nisa horses? Yes. In what way they are related to Azerbaijan? Herodotus was the first one to mention them. He wrote about the 160,000 mares of these imperial or royal horses grazing in the Nisa Valley of Media at that time. Well, let's not go into too much detail. The interesting fact here is that he specifically says about the Nisa Valley, and that it is located on the territory of Media. And you know, of course, that Media, as we know it, was located on the territory of the present-day Azerbaijan. So if your culture is connected with horses so much, for example, we have many games and sports with the engagement of horses. Do you have anything like this in Azerbaijan today? Some national games or sports with horses? Well, in fact, yes. They have always been and still exist today. For example, the game that you call Kokpa. And then, of course, Gizgovdu. Kizku. Yes, sounds almost the same. And we should by no means forget about our main horse game, for which we even have a championship today. We have several teams playing it in the country. I mean Chovgan. How do you play it? It is very similar to polo. By the way, polo originates from Chovgan. In spite of the fact that such strong and well-known horse-breeding countries as Turkey, Iran and Afghanistan were contesting the status of creating polo, UNESCO recognized Azerbaijan as the homeland of this aristocratic game. The International Polo Championship has been taking place here for the last 3 years, with the best teams of the world coming and trying their luck. In addition to ancient horse games, the Azerbaijani have maintained two unique horse breeds, the Karabakh and the Dili-Boz breeds, of which they speak with special love and pride. Both of them are very beautiful. Both of them are very strong and quick. Gorgeous posture, simply beautiful horses, both Dili-Boz and Karabakh. They have preserved their special pedigree features until the present time. They have been developing for centuries and maybe even millennia. By the way, the second name of Dili-Boz is Kazakh Aty. Kazakh Aty. It's the second name. Indeed, Dili-Boz is its, so to say, cultural name, but in principle, its popular name has always been Kazakh Aty. The Dili-Boz or the Kazakh Aty breed, that is, the Kazakh horse, is exactly one of the elements binding our histories and cultures together. Could we have a look at this horse? No problem at all. You can see it in our area and in Baku at the hippodrome. There are 2 of them in the city. They also have Kazakh Aty horses at the Kazakh horse breeding plant in Kazakh district and at private plants in Sheki. Naturally, the expedition couldn't waste a second and went directly to the place called Sheki, to the horse breeding plant working specifically on the Kazakh Aty breed, to meet the horse whose mere name caused an anxious nostalgia among us. Kabil, so this is the Kazakh Aty or Dilibor's horse? Yes, this is the one. The Kazakh horse. Could you tell us about its character? It is very well tempered and has a nice character. First of all, it's very hardy and can overcome long distances, especially in the mountains. Dilibor's doesn't require special care, can feed itself independently in the wild. Kazakh Aty is very brave, can confront wolves all alone. It was and still is an often case when stallions play the role of wolfhounds, if I may say so. They can attack, crush or suffocate a wolf. There were such cases registered. It is not by accident that the breed is called Dilibor's, which means wild grey. The expedition members were also immensely happy to meet this handsome horse in the faraway Caucasus, the horse bearing the name of our people. So we saw that they treat horses with respect and consideration in Azerbaijan and are doing everything to preserve ancient horse rider traditions. However, how ancient these traditions are? Based on the testimony of our historian, Pasha Ghassanli, the horse cult existed here long before the Scythian era. Let's find out whether it is true or not and talk to one of the Scythian experts, Zaur Ghassanov. Zaur, would you be so kind to tell us about the Saka period in the history of Azerbaijan? We were told that in those days, nomads were already present in this area. Exactly. The presence of Scythians and Saka people in Azerbaijan is recorded first of all in written sources. Already Herodotus wrote about the Scythians having moved to this territory, the land of Media, via the Caucasian Bridge. Herodotus also specified that Otto-Karibantia tribes lived around the territory of the Achaemenid Empire. The world scientists unanimously identify them as Saka people in sharply peaked headpieces. Some people under the name of Saka are also specifically mentioned in the Persian sources of the same time, with a reference to the territory of present-day Azerbaijan. We have the toponymic name of Sheki, and the majority of Azerbaijani linguists and historians agree that it originates from the word Saka. There is another toponymic name, Zakatala, the etymology of which is also linked to the ethnonym of Saka or Sakatala by many researchers. In Kazakhstan we have many Scythian objects. What about here in Azerbaijan? Any archaeological finds? Yes, of course. Arrowheads of various types, horse equipment, bits with cheek pieces, cross-type plaques used in horse equipment, plates with rhombic ornaments similar to these found in Kazakhstan and northern Black Sea region. Azerbaijani archaeologists also found mirrors with zoomorphic handles often found at Scythian burial sites along the Black Sea coast, as well as the golden earrings of triangular shape executed using the granulating method. The same earrings, only cone-shaped, are present in the finds of Saka barrows of Kazakhstan, Tuva and Altai regions. One of our most unique finds are the clay vehicles or tilt carts dating back exactly to the period of the Scythians' arrival in Azerbaijan, and to some extent associated with the Scythian and Saka nomadic tribes. Can we say that the Saka used these wagons to travel to reach this area and then populate it? Yes, this is exactly what I mean to say. Absolutely. These are the models of these wagons, which are absolutely unique. The wooden carts themselves, of course, did not make it to our time, but their clay models did it, so we know exactly what they looked like. As it turned out, the ancient linkages between Central Asia and the Caucasus had been established in those distant time of the Saka and continue to flourish today, promoting neighborly relations between modern Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan. In the nearest future, maybe the next several years, jointly with the Kazakhstani archaeologists and researchers, we plan to launch an excavation of this period's barrows in Azerbaijan. I very much hope that our study will yield good results, as Kazakh archaeologists possess a wide Saka period experience. The best of luck to you. Yes, good luck is very important, also when it comes down to Saka period archaeology. It will also allow strengthening the cultural ties between our two countries. The Scythian period in the history of Azerbaijan is very much convincing. Wandering around the rooms of Azerbaijan National History Museum, we suddenly came across a couple of very familiar items. Is it possible that the links between the Great Steppe and the Caucasus existed even earlier, during the pre-Scythian era? Let's get an expert opinion. Perviz Bey, would you tell us about the links between the Caucasus and the Great Steppe, or maybe even more extensive relations, communications and linkages of the pre-Scythian time, Bronze Age, or maybe even earlier? There is a hypothesis saying that already in the beginning of the Iron Age, that is, in the early pre-Scythian period, that is, in its very beginning, there was a migration of the Saka tribes via the South Caucasian route to the Black Sea. What about the pre-Saka period and before the Bronze Era? In your museum we saw Bronze Age jugs with swastikas, practically the same as are exhibited in all museums across Kazakhstan. In fact, it is indeed a very interesting issue. It definitely demonstrates the scale of the cultural development that covered the territory of not only the Great Steppe, but also the adjacent areas like the Southern Caucasus up to Western Asia. In the early 40s in Azerbaijan, they investigated 2 barrows with wagons, strangely enough harnessed with deer. There was a lot of debate about whether it were really deer or not. Perhaps it were horses, but they had artificial antlers attached to them. The same as in Pazarik barrows. You're absolutely right. So it appears that the horse cult existed here in Azerbaijan already in those days, in the ancient time of the Bronze Age. In the early 2000s, we made several milestone archaeological discoveries, mainly thanks to the development of the oil transportation pipeline. The so-called Sayubulag barrows are one of them. They were discovered by Najaf Musaibli. These barrows are considered the most ancient and date back to the end of the 4th millennium BC. The horse-headed scepter found their points to the stable and continual horse cult within that society. That is that its leader had to have such a symbol of power. In the West, they already accepted these periods and chronology that I told you about. But it brings to light a very interesting thing in relation to our region. It is commonly believed that the Aral Sea area up to the southern Urals, this whole region, Botai, right you are. Botai and Tersak belong to the same time, and there could be other settlements there too. This larger, so to say, region was the place where domestication of ancient horse species took place. The roads of heavenly horses have taken our expedition not only to distant ends, but also to deep antiquity. We are heading to one of the most ancient cultural monuments in the whole world. In Azerbaijan, we couldn't miss the opportunity of going to the Gobustan Reserve protected by the UNESCO. This is where archaeologists discovered over 6,000 petroglyphs, the most ancient of which are 15 years old. From the outside, the museum on the premises of the reserve looks like a traditional Asian or Oriental building. But inside, it reminds of a futuristic spaceship. The reserve's landscape inspires the epic feelings of eternity and mighty forces. Full of greatness of the Ori antiquity and sated with modern technologies, Gobustan reminds of Azerbaijan itself, the country with a rich past and surely heading into the future. Interestingly enough, in this specific segment of the Jengiatag mountain, which basically translates as the Mount of Tengri, the horse cult is manifested in dozens and dozens of horse images. Besides, local residents continue to honor Gobustan as a sacred place and continue their spiritual rites and practices here, which means that the ancient paths paved by the heavenly horses thousands of years ago, the roads connecting the Great Steppe and the Caucasus, continued to live to this day.